Thank you. My name is John, and this is John Obell channel. And today we are going to talk to somebody who traveled from Australia to overseas. He's going to tell us where did he go and how did he find it. And welcome to John Obell channel. What's your name?
My name's Tony Trough. You know, like trough, horse trough or cattle trough?
Yep.
And ear, as on head?
Yeah.
How do you think that name started?
Tell me, how
Somebody
did it start?
with big ears?
Oh, I can see your ears are big. Okay, so...
No, it's Scottish, it's old Scottish, but anyway,
Scottish,
go on. What
So, Tony, you traveled from Australia to overseas.
Yes.
Where did you go?
Well, I went to Uganda.
Uganda?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then later I studied in Uganda.
So you went to study in Uganda?
I studied in Uganda and then I went to work in Kenya.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you study in Uganda?
Education. I did a diploma in education,
Okay.
DipEd.
Yeah.
I'd already studied here at Sydney Uni, and then there was a plan. This was in the 1960s,
Okay.
1968.
Yep.
There was a plan. You know, at that stage, the East African countries, Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda,
Yep.
had all become independent about the same time. 1962
Yep.
in Tanzania, 1963 in Kenya, 1964 in Uganda. So a lot of money was being put into education.
So you traveled in the 60s?
In the late 60s.
60s?
Yeah. 1968.
Mm.
Yeah.
So how long were you in Uganda for?
I only stayed in Uganda about a year.
Yep.
That was a 1-year course.
Okay.
But it was good. And I liked it. Uganda was a lovely place.
Yep.
That was before Idi Amin. And very beautiful place, very fertile. And you know, if somebody goes to another country, it's usually a bit of a shock.
Yes.
Because you've got to learn a lot of different ways of life. You've got to learn a lot of different things. But going from here to Makerere University in Uganda,
Yep.
it was very easy. Because, you know, it was a big university. We were living on the campus.
Okay.
And it was all food provided. It was a very modern place. It was really good.
Why did you pick to go to Uganda? And there were lots of universities here in Australia.
Yeah, that's what one education man here asked me.
Okay, yeah.
Why are you going to Uganda?
Yeah.
Why don't you teach here?
Yeah. So.
But the reason is, that, you know, when I was a young boy, I was brought up in Cardiff here, Newcastle.
Cardiff in Newcastle. Yeah.
And in Cardiff, there was a creek. Do you know the name of it?
No.
Winding Creek.
Okay.
And you know why it's called Winding Creek? It used to wind through the bush. And it had a lot of water holes in it.
Yep.
And that's where I learned how to swim.
Okay.
When I was a boy.
Yeah.
And in the 1950s.
Yeah.
Now, nearby, living near there, were what we called in those days New Australians. They don't seem to use the name now, but they were New Australians.
Yeah.
That means they were foreigners.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure where they were from, but I think they were what we used to call Yugoslavs. They were
People from Yugoslavia.
Yeah, Eastern European, but I think they were Yugoslavs. And the reason they lived there was that it was a bit out of the way. The house near the creek there, they probably weren't expensive.
Yeah.
So there was a group of New Australians living there, and the kids used to come and swim in the river.
Yep.
So I got to know them. And I found they very interesting. I found, for some reason, which I can't explain now, but I found they were interesting people. And I thought, people from overseas, they're very interesting.
Okay. So that one tricked you
Even
to go
you.
overseas. Yeah. Yeah, I'm from overseas. So you wanted to go and find
So
more.
then I thought, then my mind began to think of overseas.
Yep.
I began to think. I didn't think of staying in Australia. In fact, from when I was a boy
Yep.
until I finished university, the thought of working in Australia, it never crossed my mind.
Yeah. So you were just thinking of going overseas.
Yeah. And at that time I was reading a book.
Yep. What was the name of that book?
David Livingstone.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard
missionary.
about, I've read about David
I saw a
Livingstone,
picture of him being attacked by a lion.
Yeah.
What fun!
Yeah, David was actually explorer, yeah?
He was an explorer.
He was an explorer,
Yeah.
okay.
Anyway, I thought, yeah, Africa, that's a foreign country.
Yep.
I didn't even know anything about it. But then I read somewhere in another book, you can make a lot of money in Africa, you know. And the thing that you can make most money out of, this is what I found out in the book.
Yeah.
The thing you can make most money is ostrich feathers.
Okay, so you wanted to go to Australia and see the ostrich and make lots of money.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you?
No. I found out that book was referring to the ostrich feather industry in the 1920s.
Okay. Okay, now let's talk about Uganda. You left Australia,
Yeah.
you went to Uganda. And you went to study in Uganda, you finished your course.
Yeah.
What else did you do?
In Uganda?
Yeah.
I went to Mbarara. Mbarara, I did some practical teaching in Mbarara.
Yeah.
That's in southwestern Uganda. That's where the president comes from.
Yeah, which president now?
Museveni.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did your teaching practical in Uganda?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, you know, this is 1968.
Yeah.
You know, originally Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda were part of there was an East African Federation.
Yeah, community.
Community, community rather. Yeah. So the university campuses like in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania and Kampala in Uganda and Nairobi in Kenya, they were all part of the University of East Africa.
Yeah.
And so when the education faculty was in Uganda,
Yep.
so anybody who studied there could be posted anywhere in those three countries.
Okay.
So there were, at that stage, because they needed a lot of, those three countries needed a lot of teachers all of a sudden.
Yep.
That's why they got people from overseas to come and do a dip ed there. Then they could teach somewhere in East Africa. So we got there in September, and then in the next holidays, Christmas time, everybody went off and travelled around, had a look what they could see. And then when we got back in January, they asked us to
Got back from where?
holidays,
Okay.
Christmas holidays.
Yeah.
The administration asked us, which country do you want to go and teach in?
Yeah.
So most of the local students, of course, they want to go to their own country.
Yeah.
The foreign students, there were 2 Australians and 40 British.
Yeah.
So we didn't know anything. So everybody picked the place where they went on their Christmas holidays.
Yeah, okay. So when you...
I went to Kenya.
You went to Kenya for holiday.
Yeah.
So when you ask where do you want to go and teach, you picked Kenya.
Yeah.
So where did you go in Kenya?
I was sent to a place called Gaishanjiro, which was near Thika.
Okay.
So I went to Thika, which is just north of Nairobi, and it was interesting. We went on the train.
Yeah.
You want to hear a story?
I want to hear that story. Yeah. Well, I know there were trains, but I don't know whether the trains were going to Thika from...
No, they didn't go from Thika. We came on the train from Kampala to Nairobi.
Okay.
It's an overnight trip.
Yeah.
Well, in those days, you can't go there now, but it
Yeah.
was an overnight trip.
Kenya Railways.
East African Railways.
East African Railways, okay.
You are so young.
Yeah, man, you are talking before my time. Yeah. Those are before my time. But I know there were Kenya Railways. I didn't know there were East Africa.
Anyway, there was an English girl. You know, the carriages, they had compartments with 6 beds.
Yeah.
There were 3 bunks on each side.
Yeah.
Well, the train was full, really full. All the students from our course who were coming to Nairobi were on the train, but the train was full, right? In our compartment there was me, 4 other guys, and 1 English girl.
Yep.
And one of the guys in the carriage, he was a very mean-looking man, I can tell you. Everybody was looking at him a bit...
Was he the train conductor?
No, we don't know who he was.
Yeah.
But he was a mean-looking guy, I can tell you. And this girl was a bit worried. She should have... It was a mistake to put her in there with all the men anyway. They always just put the women with them. And she told me, she called me outside, she said, look, I'm worried about that man. He's been looking at me.
Yeah.
And I think he looks very dangerous. I can't sleep there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went to see the conductor. He couldn't find a place.
Yeah.
There was no place on the train for her. So the conductor told me, look, you just have to keep your eye on this girl.
Yeah.
So this man was looking at her very badly. Anyway, we got to, it was getting dark.
Yeah.
And we were thinking, oh God,
And the train was
what's
moved.
going to happen?
Yeah.
Anyway, finally, the man, he looked at me, he told him, come out.
Yeah.
So we went out in the corridor, he said, I thought, oh God, he's going to tell me to go away or something. And then we don't know what will happen to this girl. He said, I can't sleep with that girl there.
Yeah.
You have to take her out.
Why is that?
I told her I can't take her out.
Yeah.
The conductor says there's no other place. He said, I can't sleep with her. Anyway, I don't know what happened to him. He went off somewhere.
Okay.
We didn't see him.
Okay. So, Tony,
Anyway,
I'm just interested. When you went to Kenya to teach,
Yeah.
how did you find Kenya? And did you get any culture shock when you traveled from Australia to Africa for the first time? Because I would imagine it was a bit advanced here in Australia than
Yeah, but
over there.
I don't know. I don't think I've felt anything. You know, I always think people are just people.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people, they think Africa's a sort of a mysterious place.
Yeah.
Well, everything is mysterious if you don't know it.
Yeah.
But if you meet people and you talk with them and they talk with you,
Yeah.
and you know the good thing in East Africa, most people can speak English. So
That's right, yeah.
the language wasn't a problem.
Yeah, okay.
There's a big problem if you can't speak the language,
Yeah.
then you suffer a lot. But everybody, the education's in English,
Yeah.
and I had already had a good soft landing, as it were, in
Yeah.
Uganda. And no, I don't think I had any problems. In fact, the headmaster of the school where I went, he greeted me. We got there on the sports day.
Yeah.
And he said, the first thing he said to me was, I've had a bloody hell of a day.
Oh, the headmaster was from the
He was
native...
a Kikuyu, he was a Kikuyu guy.
Okay.
Everything's gone wrong.
Yeah.
Welcome.
So he welcomed you to the school. Was it a primary school or a secondary school?
Secondary school.
Secondary school,
The thing that I noticed was how hard the students used to work.
Yeah, okay.
How hard they used to work. You know, they were boarding students. So they used to have the lessons in the daytime, and then they would have to study in the class at night.
Okay.
They all did. They didn't run away. You could go into the class at any time. There was no noise or anything. It was good. They really tried hard. Yeah, I was really impressed with that. Here, you wouldn't get kids to do that.
Yeah, it's advanced country. Which subject were you teaching in?
I was teaching English and history, and what I was teaching at that stage was East African history, which I didn't know anything about.
East Africa.
So, because the history was the history up to Form 3, which is year 10 here, or year 9 rather. It was all East African history. African history and East African. But I learned a lot of it. I know a lot now. Ask me anything about African history.
Oh, yeah, we are getting to that now. We are talking to Tony from Australia to Uganda and then Kenya. And he did some teaching in Nairobi. So
Not
Tony,
Nairobi.
Yeah. Oh,
Thika,
Thika.
Marsabit,
yeah.
and Malindi.
Okay. So, Tony, you are the only white person in all those schools. How did you feel when you are the only white person in this community of African?
Ow! I feel good.
Yep.
I felt good.
Okay.
No, I wasn't the only white person.
Yep.
In the school in Gaishanjira, which is in central Kenya,
Yep.
there was a father teaching, an Italian father.
Yep.
And in the school at Marsabit, where I was the principal,
Yep.
there was an English lady teaching and an American Peace Corps guy. And in the school in Malindi, which is on the coast of Kenya,
Yep.
there was an American girl there, a Peace Corps girl
So
as well.
you teach...
But I didn't have any problem.
You went to several schools in Kenya?
Yeah.
teaching.
When I was... this is what happened.
Yep.
When I was teaching in my first school, as I told you, the headmaster there was a terrible drunkard.
Yep.
He used to spend the whole day down in the pub.
Drinking?
Yes, and then he would come back to the school in the afternoon to cane all the boys who had to be caned.
Yep.
And then he would go back to the pub.
Yep.
Well, the deputy headmaster didn't live on the school campus.
Yep.
He lived in the town, so every day he used to bring his food with him, and he would come and have lunch with me. Right. I used to tell him, you know, this headmaster here, he's really hopeless. He's never in the school.
Yeah.
Even me, I just started teaching. I could do a better job.
Yeah.
This is what I was telling the deputy headmaster.
Yeah.
I didn't know, but he was writing the annual reviews of all the teachers.
Yeah.
And one of the questions was, which had to be submitted to the Department of Education, can this man or woman be a principal? Well, I was telling him every lunchtime, I could be a better principal. So he said yes.
Don't you know that a feather all bird fall together? These people, they are from the same community. They talk together, and you are the odd one out. You didn't know that.
Anyway, next thing I knew, I got a transfer to Marsabit, which is in the north of the country, all desert area, as a principal, because I've been telling him I can be a principal.
Okay. So they took you very far away.
I liked
in the desert there.
I liked
Garissa, okay.
I liked it so much.
You love it.
Marsabit's a big mountain in the middle of the desert. On the top of the mountain is a big forest. In the forest is big elephants.
Yeah.
And they used to come into the school every day. And the boys, at night, they come into the school farm, the boys would run out and chase them around.
Yeah.
It sounds romantic and interesting. But imagine
you like that.
you were a principal and you got boys running around at night and elephants walking around the farm and they're chasing them around. What if one of the boys gets trampled?
Yep.
Then you're in big trouble.
So what did you do?
Well, to tell the boys to get out. Get out. You can't chase the elephants around. Anyway, so I was given by the game department 2 big thunder flash crackers.
Yeah.
They were like sticks of dynamite. These would throw at the elephants and chase them away if necessary. But I never used them.
Did you cane any of your students?
When I arrived at that school, there was a big bundle of canes in the corner of the room.
Yeah.
When I left, I don't know where they were.
You used them all?
No, I didn't use them. There was one occasion where I threatened a boy to cane him because he did something really bad. He abused the principal of the primary school next door to our school. He abused him in front of all his students.
Yeah.
I told him, listen, you are either going to be caned for that or you're going to go over there and weed all the grass along the fence between the 2 schools while all the little primary school children look at you. He said,
that's not bad. I can do that.
yeah, but he was very humiliated. He was but he agreed, rather than be caned.
Yeah.
That's the only time I used a cane.
So,
I didn't use it.
Tony, in all these schools you teach, you never cane a student?
Never, not even once.
When the principal was caning them, what did you tell the principal? Did you say anything?
No, you couldn't talk to him.
Yeah.
No. He was drunk. You can't talk to a drunk person. No, so anyway, so no. And I was just a junior teacher. It wasn't my job to be telling the principal what to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I liked it so much, and I wanted to stay there. So when I was teaching in Malindi, and my contract finished, I had a contract to teach for several years. Anyway, when the contract finished, I came back to Australia. I had a return ticket from Kenya to Australia and back again. But when I was here in Australia, the Australian government cancelled all those teaching arrangements. But all my stuff was in Kenya. And I had a ticket to go back, which the government didn't know.
You went back?
So I went back.
Yeah, okay. How long, when you came back, how long did you stay here?
Only 3 months or something.
And then you went back
Yeah. So I went back, and then I got a job in the schools broadcasting.
Yep.
I got a job in a...
Which broadcasting was this?
The Kenya Schools Broadcasting Service, it was called then.
What was it called before?
It's called Schools Broadcasting Service, SBS it was called.
Yep.
And my job was to go all around the country and see how the radio, they made lessons for the radio.
Yeah, okay. For schools?
For schools. My job was to go around and see how those lessons were being appreciated in the schools. Nobody had ever done that.
Okay.
They had a lot of hotshot producers making very classy radio lessons, and not one of them knew what the students were hearing at the end.
Yeah.
We had one presenter there. He was very dull. He was a very dull man. Nobody liked him in the schools broadcasting. They said he's hopeless. He has no expression.
But they're just listening to radio. They don't care whether you're dull or not.
Exactly, exactly. When I went to the schools, I found he was the number one, the top presenter in the whole school board. And I asked the children why. They said, he's very clear and easy to understand.
Okay.
When I told all these hotshot dramatists and people who want to be film stars and so on, they didn't want to hear that.
So, Tony, I just want to know, when you went to Kenya and you stayed there for
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
Did you marry from Kenya?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You found a beautiful Kenyan woman from there?
I found a beautiful woman, and you know, it's interesting you mention a beautiful woman, because at the time I met my wife, who is here in Australia now.
Yep. She's here now. She's actually in this room.
Anyway, I was writing a story for the newspapers.
Yep.
That's another thing I did. I got a job in the newspapers in Kenya.
Did a lot of things while in Kenya.
As well as a film school.
But we are interested to know about this beautiful woman you found.
I was doing a story for the newspaper. I thought Nairobi has a lot of beautiful women, so I did a survey.
Yep.
And what I did was, I picked a place, I sat in the New Stanley Hotel in Nairobi, and near the footpath there, and I looked at all the women who went by, and I estimated about 2,000 women.
Yeah, okay.
It's a hard job.
You were just looking at the women passing, and you counted it, 2,000 women.
And I got some friends of mine to check also, some African friends, also to check whether my opinions were like theirs, and we basically agreed.
That Nairobi women are so beautiful.
No, not all of them. Only 9%.
9% were beautiful.
Only 9% I found.
And that one took you from Australia to Kenya to get one there.
Well, I don't know about that, but anyway, but what happened was, I took the story to the Standard newspaper, and they wouldn't publish it.
Okay.
They said you have to have pictures.
Yep.
So I went around and took a lot of pictures of beautiful ladies in the street, and then I took them to the paper.
Did they know that you were taking their photos?
No, they didn't. They said, we can't publish these. What if their husband or boyfriend sees them?
Yeah.
So they refused. So I had to find some lady to take a picture.
Yeah.
Well, I was selling a car, a second-hand car, at the Standard office. They had an office in town for ads.
Yeah.
So I went in there. There was a beautiful lady behind the counter. So I put my ad with her, and I asked her, would you like to have a picture taken for the newspaper? No.
Yeah. She said no.
She didn't agree. Even till today, still hasn't had the picture taken.
Okay. So you didn't get a chance to show your pictures?
I didn't. Yeah. No, I never got that story published.
How come you didn't take the picture of your wife? Since now you had a beautiful woman.
She wouldn't agree. She didn't agree. No. She turned me down. Anyway, but I got to know, and then years later, you know, there's a lot of things in there, but years later, when I was coming back to Australia, I realized I better get married in Kenya.
Yep.
Because I've been out of Australia for 20 years.
20 years. That's
I didn't have
time.
A job here.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody here. I didn't know. All my adult life had been lived in Kenya. I was like a foreigner here.
So when you came back here,
I thought if I come back here, I will never. I might not even get married. So I decided I better get married. Then, just by good luck, I saw my wife at Zella.
Yeah.
walking in the street in Nairobi, and I thought, yeah, and Zella's a good wife. And yeah, so I asked her to get if she will marry me, and she said no.
Oh, wow. Was that the first time you met her?
No, that was after a long time. I'd known her for a long time before that. After meeting her in the office, the newspaper ad office. But anyway, she said no, but she thought for 3 years and then she agreed.
3 years?
3 years.
What was she thinking?
I'm wondering what she was thinking myself. What was she thinking of?
3 years? But you are living together?
No, I was here and she was in Kenya. I had to come back to Australia. My father died, so I came back here. So she thought for 3 years and she said, okay.
Oh, wow. 3 years. Oh, I don't know whether I'll wait for that 3 years. So for that 3 years, you stayed with that?
I stayed here.
So, Tony, for people who want to travel from Australia to Kenya, what will you advise them?
You know, the Kenya that I was in is not the same Kenya there is now. When I went to Kenya in 1968, I think the population of Kenya was about 12 million, and the population of Australia was about 8 million.
And in all the countries, population grown.
And now the population of Kenya is 50 million, and Australia is 25 million. So Kenya's quadrupled, quintupled, or whatever. You know, there's too many people. It's only a small place, half the size of New South Wales, so it's full. So the country that I was in was empty. Now it's full. And you got a lot of desperate people. You've got to be careful when you go to Nairobi now. Keep your eyes open.
Everywhere you have to be careful.
Keep your eyes open.
Even in Australia, you have to be careful.
but
there are places
more
you can't just walk and
more
go
so
there.
Anyway, but for me, I can say in the 20 years that I was in Kenya, I never had a problem. Never had any problem at all.
You enjoyed your stay in
I liked people
Kenya.
there. I got on well with people there. And most of my friends there were Africans. I never had any problem.
Did you learn any Swahili while you were...
Swahili, I learned Swahili before I went.
Okay.
I got a book.
Here in Australia?
Australia, I practiced some words. And I was living in a lodging house in Victoria, and I was putting signs around the house. And then, you know the word in Swahili, the word for toilet is choo. Choo. C-H-O-O. Choo. But in English, you'd think it would be pronounced chew. So I put it in the toilet, and the landlady came back and said, "Who put that sign in the toilet saying chew? What do you think this is?"
What did you...
But when I was in Kenya and when I was in Marsabit, because I was a principal, most of the school workmen, they didn't know English, so I suddenly had to learn Swahili very quickly, which I did. And then later on I went to live in the coast for a year.
That's the Mombasa area.
Malindi.
Malindi.
And then I learned Swahili properly. Because you know Swahili is different in different places.
So you can speak Swahili fluently.
I can even speak Swahili like a Jaluo. Like Naendanga.
No, that's broken Swahili.
But that's how I hear Luos say.
Those are broken Swahili. What type of music were you listening while you were in Kenya? Because
Somali music.
Somali music?
Somali music. I was a friend of. I used to stay with a Somali man who was one of the presenters at the Voice of Kenya. And he's now the MP for Makadara in Nairobi. Yusuf Hassan, his name was. And we used to go and visit a lot of musicians. And there were a couple of musicians, young Somali men who were trying to become musicians. But they weren't very good. But a musician came from Somalia. His name was Mohammed Morge. This man was, let's say, Elvis Presley. He was
of Nairobi.
of Somalia.
Somali.
The president of Somalia, Siad Barre, the president asked him, this is what he told me, the president asked me, please, don't make any songs about me. He was of such a high status. When he came to Nairobi, he came to see me because I had a lute. You know the lute, Arabic lute? and he wanted to borrow it. So I loaned it to him for a year. But when he came there, the Somalis said, "Wow, we're going to book the National Theatre in Nairobi. We'll put on a big show. We will pay you anything. Whatever you want, we'll pay anything."
Yeah.
He just told them, "My talents are not for sale."
Yeah.
He never put on a single show for them, but he made a lot of recording for me. Well, it was my lute.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway, I like
Do
that
you still
music.
have some of the music?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Seriously,
Yeah.
some of these music that he recorded for me, if any Somalis got hold of them, they'd be really thrilled because they're unique. He recorded them specially for me, and he was a real expert. I asked him, "Why don't you teach some other people?" He said, "I have. I've taught 3 people." I thought, that's not many. But until I realized what he means when he taught somebody something,
Yeah.
they stayed taught.
Yeah.
They were completely taught.
Yeah.
He didn't let them go until they were thoroughly taught.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
What a teacher. But other music, I used to know there's a famous musician called Fadili William.
Okay.
You know that
Williams,
song,
yeah.
the famous worldwide song, Malaika, Nakupenda, Malaika. He made that. So he made up a song for me.
Yeah.
I was working in the schools broadcasting and I wanted to make some songs for children to tell their parents about health issues.
Okay.
One was washing eyes, one was keeping baby bottles clean, one was getting your children inoculated for various diseases, and one was, there were 4, one was something else. But I asked him, "Will you make me a song for cleaning babies' bottles?"
Yeah.
This is a famous musician, cleaning babies' bottles.
Okay.
He said, "Okay."
Yeah. He did.
He sat down, he wrote a song.
Okay.
He wrote it down for me just then. Chupa chafu kwa mtoto ni hatari, mwambie mama oshe chupa iwe safi, iweke mahali pasafi na uifunike, usiku na mchana chupa iwe safi.
Oh, wow. So did you sing that song or he was singing that?
No, I got a band to play it.
Okay.
At the, you know, the Machakos bus station in Nairobi?
Yeah, I know where it
At
is.
the end of that bus station is so busy and noisy, but at the end of it is a bar.
Yeah.
In the bar was a band, and I went in one day and I told them, "I want to make a song. I can pay you 100 shillings to record it."
Yeah.
So that was the song.
Yeah.
So we went up on the roof, all the band members got their guitars and everything.
And
On the roof,
yeah.
all the buses were down there revving their engines.
Too much noise, yeah.
And they recorded the song straight away, just like that. And that was what went on air.
So this song was distributed to all the schools?
No. We had school radio lessons.
Okay, yeah.
And between each lesson, we would put one of these health
play.
messages.
Okay.
And we play them a certain number of times. So, it was very interesting. You know, in places like Nairobi, there's so much happening, all sorts of interesting things. And when I came back to Australia, I found it was a little bit dull here.
Okay.
You know...
Why was it dull?
You know, in many ways, white Australian culture is very shallow because it hasn't had a long time to develop. It's basically British culture, but it hasn't developed its own character thoroughly. Whereas in Kenya, even very poor people, they have a great depth of culture which goes back a long way. And they are part of things bigger than them. Which we don't have here. So it took me a long time. You know, I was in Kenya 20 years. I went there when I was about 20, let's say. And I came back when I was about 40.
Got married there,
So that was more or less all my adult life had been lived there until I came back here. So that was where I formed my character. And when I came back here, it took me about 10 years to get used to Australia again.
Did you find any changes in Australia when you came? Was it like a big shock to you after staying in Kenya for a while, you came to Australia? Well, how was it? Did you get like a shock?
Well, not when I came back. The first time I came back to Australia after 3 years, when I came back on leave from Kenya. Yeah, it was a big shock. But I think that's what happens to anybody who goes from their own country to some other place. And then they come back to their own country. they don't realize their own country is also changing.
Yeah, it changes all
So
the time. Yeah.
they take them, but once you realize that, you realize you're coming back to a different country. So I was aware of that. But the first time I came back, it was a big shock.
Oh,
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
interesting, Tony.
Yeah.
Would you like to come for part 2 of our storytelling? Because you've traveled from Australia to Kenya and then Uganda and then you came back.
Yeah.
So you know actually both sides of the country.
I
So
could
we'd like to know more about what really happened when you were there, the teaching you did and all that stuff. We want to know there what happened. So are you available to come for
yes, all right.
part 2?
Yep.
Okay, good. We'll bring Tony for part 2 of the story, and we want to know more about his journey in Kenya, Uganda, and did you go to Tanzania as well?
I did.
And Tanzania.
Yeah.
So you didn't say anything about Tanzania, so we want to know that in part 2. This is John Obell, YouTube channel. Please remember to subscribe, and you'll get more stories about traveling to different countries, and we bring the best people to advise you about traveling to other parts of the world.
Only the best people.